My furious husband slapped me hard with his heavy hand, and I staggered back in shock. My face burned from the blow, but the fear in my heart was even stronger. I was pregnant, and this wasn't just about me anymore. As I stumbled back, clutching my belly, I thought this might be the moment everything fell apart. But then the second shock hit, and it made my whole body tremble. Hello, my name is Mia, and I'm 32 years old. For years, I believed I was living the kind of life most people could only dream of. I worked as a project manager for a growing tech company, which gave me financial independence and a sense of purpose. I was married to Ryan, who I thought was a caring and dependable partner. Together, we were building what I thought was a stable future, paying off our house, dreaming of milestones, and planning for the life ahead. But life has a way of revealing cracks in what appears perfect. Ryan's family was a huge part of his world, especially his mother, Clara, and his younger brother, Nick. After losing his father, Ryan became even closer to them, and I admired the bond they shared. In the beginning, I truly believed I was lucky to be welcomed into such a warm and close-knit family. Family dinners were lively, full of jokes and hearty meals, and Clara always seemed so charming. She would smile at me and ask about my work, saying things like, "A project manager, huh? You must be good at keeping everything under control." I felt valued, seen even. I thought I'd found a second family. But it didn't take long for the warmth I had felt to shift into something colder. Subtle comments, hidden behind polite smiles, started to make me question whether Clara had ever truly welcomed me. One evening, at a family gathering, I went to the kitchen to refill my glass and paused when I heard voices. "She tries too hard," Clara said with a sharp laugh. Always so eager to impress, but honestly, she just seems out of place. My heart sank as I realized they were talking about me. I stood frozen in the doorway, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. The joy I once felt at these gatherings began to fade as I started noticing more whispers, more glances, and more cruel little remarks. And every time I looked to Ryan for support, he avoided my eyes. I tried to brush off Clara's comments, telling myself I was overthinking. After all, no family is perfect, right? But as time went on, it became harder to ignore the tension beneath the surface. Clara's warmth toward me started to feel like an act, and Nick followed her lead like a loyal shadow. At every family gathering, I noticed the three of them, Clara, Ryan, and Nick, huddling together, their heads bent close as they whispered and laughed. The jokes weren't harmless anymore. They felt sharp, directed at others in the room, and sometimes at me. The breaking point came during an Easter Sunday lunch. Everyone had gathered around the table, and the conversation turned to a distant relative who had fallen on hard times. Clara smirked as she said, "Well, I suppose not everyone is smart enough to plan for the future." Her tone was dripping with condescension. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I set down my fork and looked directly at her. "That's not fair," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "They're doing the best they can. It's not right to belittle someone for something out of their control." The room fell silent. Clara raised her eyebrows, a faint smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, Mia," she said sharply, "don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. You really need to learn to lighten up." I turned to Ryan, desperate for some kind of support, but he just stared at his plate, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. That silence from him cut deeper than Clara's words ever could. For the first time, I realized how alone I really was in this family. After that day, things only got worse. Family gatherings, once filled with laughter and connection, now felt like minefields. I started making excuses to avoid attending. Work commitments, headaches, errands I couldn't postpone. But even when I stayed home, I felt the weight of their judgment hanging over me. Ryan would return from those gatherings glued to Clara's side, his loyalty to her stronger than anything he'd ever shown me. Despite everything, I tried to hold on to the hope that things would improve. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought it might bring us closer together, give us a chance to bond and start fresh as a family. But my pregnancy was far from the beautiful experience I had imagined. It was challenging from the very beginning. I was constantly nauseous, dizzy, and eventually, my eyesight started to worsen, a rare complication that made everything harder. I needed support more than ever, but Ryan's help was nowhere to be found. At first, he made a few half-hearted attempts. "I'm just not good at this stuff, Mia," he would say with a shrug when I asked for help. Soon, even those small efforts stopped. He began staying out later, spending more time at Clara's house, or helping Nick with his errands. Whenever I brought it up, he'd dismiss my concerns. "You're always tired," he snapped one evening, irritation clear in his voice. "How hard can it really be to just rest?" By the time my C-section was scheduled, I was both physically and emotionally drained. On the day of the surgery, as I lay on the cold operating table, nerves and fear consumed me. I looked around, searching for Ryan. "Where's my husband?" I asked the nurse, my voice trembling. The nurse gave me a kind but firm smile. He said he'd wait outside. Her words hit me like a slap. He wasn't even there when I needed him the most. When I heard my baby's first cries, tears of relief filled my eyes, but that joy was fleeting. Ryan walked into the recovery room hours later, his face full of discomfort, not pride. "I don't understand why this was necessary," he muttered, barely glancing at our newborn. "Back in the day, men weren't even supposed to be in these situations. What happened to privacy?" His cold words stung more than I could have imagined. He stormed out, leaving me alone in the hospital room with our baby. Tears streamed down my face as I held my son close, wondering how I was going to survive this. The weeks following the birth of my son were some of the hardest of my life. Sleepless nights blurred into exhausting days. Every feeding, every diaper change, and every midnight cry fell on me alone. Ryan's presence grew even rarer, and when he was home, his complaints overshadowed everything. One night, as the baby's cries echoed through the house, Ryan snapped, "Can you shut him up already?" "I'm trying, Ryan," I said, barely able to keep the exhaustion from my voice. "He's teething, it hurts him." "Well, all you do is focus on him," he growled.
"What about me?
"What about our marriage?" I wanted to scream at him, to make him understand how much I was struggling, but instead, I swallowed my frustration and turned back to soothing my son. The loneliness was unbearable, and with every passing day, I felt myself growing more and more isolated. Months went by, and Ryan's dissatisfaction only grew. One evening, as I was trying to calm our colicky baby, he dropped a bombshell. "You need to go back to work," he said abruptly. I looked at him in disbelief.
"What?"
"Ryan, the baby still needs me. And with my eyesight." "We'll hire a nanny," he interrupted, his tone dismissive. "We can't keep living like this. We need the money." I tried to reason with him, but it was clear that there was no room for discussion. Reluctantly, I started job hunting, even though my impaired vision made it incredibly difficult. Eventually, I found a lower-paying position at a small company. I shared the news with Ryan, hoping for at least a little encouragement. "That's it," he scoffed. "We're paying a nanny for this?" Tears welled up in my eyes, but I managed to reply, "I'm doing my best, Ryan. It's not easy with my eyesight." "Excuses," he muttered, walking away without another word. It was during one of these arguments that everything changed. Ryan came home late one evening, visibly irritated. He threw his bag onto the couch and glared at me. "What now, Ryan?" I asked, my voice trembling with exhaustion. "Why are you always like this?" "You think it's easy for me?" he yelled. "Dealing with you and this constant whining?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "Whining? I've been doing everything, Ryan. Everything. And you've been nothing but..." Before I could finish, he stepped forward and slapped me across the face. The force sent me stumbling back, and for a moment, I stood there, stunned. My hand flew to my cheek as tears streamed down my face. "What is wrong with you?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Ryan didn't apologize. Instead, he muttered something under his breath and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. That night, as I held my son close, I knew that something had to change. This wasn't the life I wanted for myself or for my child. As time went on, the cracks in my marriage deepened, and Ryan's behavior grew colder. When Thanksgiving arrived, I hoped that the holiday might offer some relief, a chance to reconnect and find some semblance of normalcy. Instead, it became one of the most humiliating nights of my life. We gathered at Clara's house as usual. She bustled around the kitchen, giving orders and making sure everything was picture perfect. When Nick arrived, he brought along his new girlfriend, Sophia, a confident, elegant woman who worked as an investment banker. "Everyone, this is Sophia," Nick announced with pride, his arm draped around her shoulders. Clara's face lit up as if she'd won the lottery. "A banker?" she exclaimed, pulling Sophia into an embrace. "Nick, you've really outdone yourself this time." The entire evening, Clara couldn't stop praising Sophia. "Do you know Sophia makes $200,000 a year?" she said loudly, ensuring everyone heard. "She's the kind of daughter-in-law I've always dreamed of, smart, successful, and beautiful." Her words stung, but it was what she said next that truly broke me. With a sweet yet cutting smile, Clara added, "Unlike some people who just pop out babies and bring financial stress to the family." The table fell silent. My cheeks burned as I stared down at my plate, wishing I could disappear. I could feel the pitying glances from a few of the guests, but no one said a word. Not even Ryan. He sat there, avoiding my gaze, as if I wasn't even there. Just when I thought the humiliation couldn't get worse, Clara stood up and clapped her hands. "Why don't we celebrate Sophia's success with dinner at that new restaurant downtown? It'll be on me." Nick and Sophia eagerly agreed, and to my disbelief, Ryan joined in without hesitation. "That sounds great," he said, already grabbing his coat. "What about dinner here?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I've been cooking all day." "Oh, Mia, don't be so dramatic," Clara said dismissively. "You can handle things here. We'll be back later." Without another word, Clara, Ryan, Nick, and Sophia left, their laughter echoing as the door closed behind them. I sat frozen at the table, staring at the half-eaten meal I had poured my heart into preparing. One by one, the remaining guests made their excuses and left, their pitying glances only deepening my pain. Months passed, and I found out I was pregnant again. This time, I didn't feel the same joy I had felt before, only fear and uncertainty. My first pregnancy had been so difficult, and with Ryan growing more distant every day, I couldn't help but wonder how I would manage on my own. When I told Ryan the news, his reaction was as cold as ever. "Another one," he said, barely looking up from his phone. "Just don't quit your job this time. We can't afford that." His words shattered what little hope I had left. Instead of showing concern for my health or excitement for our growing family, he spent more and more time at Clara's house or running errands for Nick. I was left to navigate my pregnancy almost entirely alone. The final betrayal came just days before my scheduled C-section. Ryan came home in a hurry, with Clara following close behind. I was resting on the couch, my swollen belly making every movement difficult. "What's going on?" I asked, sensing something was wrong. "We're heading to Hawaii for Nick's wedding," Ryan said curtly as he packed his suitcase. I sat up, panic rising in my chest. "But my C-section is in 5 days. Who's going to take care of our son? How can you leave now?" "You'll manage," he said dismissively, zipping up his bag. "You always do." As they walked out the door, my heart shattered. Desperate, I checked our joint savings account, only to find it empty. Ryan had drained everything. That night, sharp pains shot through my abdomen. My water had broken early, and I realized I was going into labor. The pain was unbearable as I called for an ambulance, my heart racing with fear. I couldn't believe I was about to face this life-threatening delivery completely alone. The hospital staff was kind and reassuring, but nothing could erase the sinking feeling in my chest. Ryan had abandoned me when I needed him most. Hours later, I woke up in the recovery room, disoriented but alive. The doctor informed me that both I and the baby were safe, though it had been a difficult delivery. When I looked to my side, expecting to see Ryan, I found 2 familiar faces instead, Mary, a close friend, and her husband, John. They held my hands tightly, offering the comfort I desperately needed. As I cradled my newborn in my arms, a mixture of relief and sadness washed over me. I had survived, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. For my children's sake and for my own, I needed to break free from the toxic cycle that Ryan and his family had trapped me in. The day I decided to file for divorce was both terrifying and liberating. Fear of the unknown weighed heavily on me, but the relief of finally taking control of my life was stronger. Ryan's betrayal had made it clear that our marriage was beyond repair. My priority now was my children and their future. Surprisingly, the legal process went smoother than I expected. Ryan, arrogant as ever, dismissed the proceedings as a waste of time. He was confident that his new relationship with Sophia and her financial ventures would make him untouchable. "You're going to regret this, Mia," he sneered during one of our last conversations. "I'm about to be rich, and you'll still be stuck struggling in this dump." But I no longer cared about his empty promises or his approval. Armed with years of bank statements proving I had been the one paying the mortgage, the judge awarded me the house. Ryan, distracted by his delusions of wealth, barely contested anything else. The day he packed his belongings and left was like a weight being lifted off my chest. The house, once filled with his disdain, finally felt like a place of peace. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy juggling work, childcare, and my own healing, especially with my impaired vision. But I refused to give up. Every paycheck I earned felt like a step closer to independence, and every milestone my children reached reminded me why I was fighting so hard. Ryan, meanwhile, flaunted his new life on social media. Photos of him and Sophia at lavish parties and exotic vacations filled my feed, each caption dripping with arrogance. But instead of feeling jealous or bitter, I felt pity. He had chosen illusions over substance, and I knew it would catch up to him eventually. A year later, the news broke. Sophia, the woman Ryan and his family had idolized, was exposed as a fraud. She had orchestrated a massive financial scam, duping investors, including Ryan, Clara, and Nick, out of millions. Sophia vanished, leaving behind nothing but forged documents and shattered lives. Clara lost her home, her cars were repossessed, and Nick was drowning in debt. Ryan, stripped of his dreams of grandeur, was left scrambling to pick up the pieces. When the phone rang a few days later, I wasn't surprised to see Clara's name on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mia," she began, her voice trembling. We need your help." "Helps?" I echoed, my voice steady. "Ryan and I have nowhere to go," she pleaded. "The children need their father. We're family, Mia. You can't just turn your back on us." I took a deep breath, memories of their cruelty flooding back. "Family?" I said calmly. "You weren't concerned about family when you abandoned me while I was pregnant, or when you drained my savings, or when you humiliated me at every turn." "Mia, please," Clara tried again, but I cut her off. "I've rebuilt my life for my children, and I won't expose them to the instability you've brought upon yourselves. I'm sorry for what you're going through, but this is the result of your own choices. Please don't contact me again." With that, I ended the call and blocked her number. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. My home, once filled with tension and chaos, was now a haven of love and stability. My children's laughter echoed through the house, a constant reminder of how far I had come. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that was enough. I had lost so much, but I had gained something far more valuable: freedom, strength, and the clarity to see what truly mattered. As I held my children close, I knew one thing for certain: our future was bright, and it was ours to embrace. Thank you so much for reading this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps bring more stories to life. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next story.